So 6 days ago, we went to vote, and from that evening, they started counting and they started announcing the results. We have heard the results for MCA, for MP, for senators, for women rep, for various governors apart from two. For the president, we're still waiting. Yet, of all these other results, only the presidential result has actually been made public from the first time a result was declared across the country. So this has caused a lot of anxiety. Is it justified anxiety, Rita?
Among the citizens, or among the candidates, or among the politicians?
Candidates are not anxious. Candidates are just doing their thing.
Yeah. I think people should go about their business. I do not remember. I cannot quite say what Uhuru did for me personally when he got into power. So this Raila is looking for a job. Ruto is looking for a job. If they get it, it's like any other job interview. They'll proceed and do it. You proceed and do your job as you have it right now. Don't let this thing, don't get caught up in this thing. There's really nothing you can do. Your anxiety doesn't add value. So I would really encourage everyone to go about their business. Even the Sun, I encourage the Sun to now come out and go about its business. Let's normalize the situation. Love your friends, have dinner, go out and dance. Love your children now that they're home. Do their homework. CBC, I hear they have a lot of bidding to do. Do homework with your children. Just go about your normal life. Don't get too caught up in this thing. It really has, at this juncture, it has nothing to do with you. So let's chill. And I think sometimes I give Chebukati a lot of kudos for taking this thing into the full 7 days, so that people can let the emotion dissipate, the tempers to calm down. The expectations are being managed with figures here and there. The media took us to sub 70% and dropped off. People are doing the individual tallies and getting somewhere. So let this thing blow out. So that by the time the announcement is resolved, someone got a job, you proceed with yours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Prior to this, the way it happened, Rita, you specifically said that Chebukati had no business running this election.
Oh, well, I still hold that position that in any decent, I can even not even democracy, in any decent job, Chebukati should not be holding this office. For a simple reason. He's done it before. He was indicted by the Supreme Court. He was told in his tenure as the chairman, there has been extreme illegality and irregularity. That presidential election was cancelled. His commissioners resigned. They said they're resigning because of his management skills or lack thereof. He sent an email to his to his CEO, asking very critical and pertinent questions on interference with the data, with the electoral data that was in the server.
Right.
A letter which we have not seen a response to. We have not seen a proper audit of that particular election, saying that this is what the Supreme Court said, this is what the audit has shown, this is what we have done. We saw an attempt between him and Parliament. We saw an attempt to introduce laws to try rectify some of those errors. Some of them failed. We did not see any impassioned or passionate lobbying from Chebukati's side to say this is the reason, this will help us do this. He went into this process as a man who's indicted. He should not have touched it. On a moral ground, Chebukati should have said, hii kitu imenishinda 2017, wacha tuachie mtu mwingine ajaribu.
And now with all the things that you've said, is it possible then that is fueling the anxiety that we see today?
It could be a possibility, but let's separate issues. So that should have happened.
Okay.
Especially when you say IBC, Chapter 6, integrity, politicians, and then look who's at the top. But still, he's the one we have now.
Okay.
And we had seen Chebukati until 3 weeks ago, loading himself over the institution of IBC, So Chebukati, it's the way they say a journalist or a reporter should not be the news. You report on the news. Chebukati seemed to have been bigger than the institution called IBC, which is a very massive institution. He was not even working very well with the other commissioners and with the secretariat. He was not working very well with the stakeholders who are politicians. He was not communicating very clearly and on time with the voters. He kept giving us this impression that he's as surprised as we are, and things are catching him as off guard as the rest of us. So that could have triggered some anxiety. But what I can say as at this point is voters have shown up. The logistics have been as decent as they could have been. We have seen a back and forth maybe with the issue of manual voter register versus the KIMS kit and whatnot, but they have responded very quickly on the ground, and that did not adversely affect the elections. Then there are things that, again, they were as surprised as we are that Ngilu is still on the ballot, as surprised as we are that Mombasa, I don't know, has done what Kakamega. We're like, who's your quality anyway? So bottom line is, a lot could have gone better before, way before, like 5 years before. A lot could have been done better up to a month ago. But here we are now, based on public pressure and enough noise from all stakeholders. We have seen quite a bit of improvement the past 3 weeks. Yeah.
You want to ask the same question of MANYORA?
What do you think, Herman?
I must begin by saying that I'm happy.
Okay.
First, because we conducted ourselves in a manner that has surprised many people, especially foreigners. I get a lot of, I get to do a lot of interviews with foreign media. You get the feeling they are not happy that we don't have violence. The way they ask questions, it's like they are waiting for stuff like that. You don't blame them. So kudos to us as Kenyans. Secondly, I must also say that I'm surprised the way IBC has conducted itself. Beyond my wildest expectations. It's done a good job. However, even as we talk about good job, we must remember from the days of, not even Kivuitu. Before Kivuitu, there was somebody, I don't know who that was.
Justice.
There was somebody. Briefly, okay, but mainly from Kivuitu's time. Our elections... There was somebody.
It will come. Judge, yes.
Yeah.
It will come.
Kivuitu or Chesoni?
Chesoni, yes.
Chesoni, yes.
From the time of Chesoni, but more so from the time of Kivuitu. Our elections have not had a big problem. The conduct of the election has always been good. The problem has always been with the presidential election, not even the election itself. The very tip where we are now, which has always been a problem of the transfer of power. Because you see, everybody is happy. Others who lost, they have lost and they have gone home. So that is where the problem is, and the anxieties are. My daughter here would agree with me that we are all human beings. A human being is a psychological bundle, and the emotions are normal. So this anxiety, you go to town, it's like a holiday, and so really that is expected. My thinking would be, the next election, we must endeavor to give results in 24 hours. It's quite possible. I mean, in 24 hours, many people knew they were MPs or they had lost. Many people, and yet we begin counting with the presidential ballot. Okay? How come long after governors have known the loss or won and the loss of these fellows, we are still waiting for results? And look here, Eric, it is just arithmetics, actually. Outside there, my daughter was telling me it's just addition. That arithmetics is even big, and I saw Raila saying it is not even mathematics; it's just arithmetics. It's inconceivable that a whole nation is waiting for people to add things. 1 + 1 is equals to 2. So I have been thinking and saying to myself, somebody must be smarter than the rest of us. There's somebody.
And do what?
Either it is Chebukati who has set us up for all this and is so smart, or somebody from some quarter. I don't know whether it's Nice. It could be Nice. Somebody is a spin. How can a whole nation of 50 million people, over 30 of them who are adults, I suspect, be waiting for hesabu ya mbili ongeza mtatu ni tano.
It's
You can't
because of
believe
what
it.
you said. Because you Kenyans, and I'm not saying you, Herman, I'm just
Yes.
saying, as Kenyans, we argued about this. We went to the Supreme Court and said, you know what, how do we declare a result? What is a result? When is a result a result?
Yes, yes.
And the Supreme Court was just pushed to come in and prescribe and say a result is when you have the physical thing. Kenya's election is manual, so you bring in the physical result to the returning officer. That's why the returning officer, the constituency, despite everybody in a polling station knowing the result, has to wait for all presiding officers from all the stations to come to a constituency so that he can say who the MCA of a certain ward is.
But you see, Eric,
And it's the
That's
same
not
thing
what
that's
I'm
happening.
saying.
Now we are waiting for
That's not
all
what
the
I'm
returning
saying.
officers to come with a physical piece of paper.
you and I are talking about
so that
two
we can do this.
You and I are talking
That's
about
why we are this anxious
No,
because
you and I are talking about two different things.
okay.
In America, after people vote on that 4th of November, is it 4th of Tuesday or 4th, whichever, I think it's a Tuesday, whatever date it is, the results become official long after that. Long after somebody has conceded, another
True.
one has given long.
Takes 2 months.
It's about, is it November or
2
I think
months
January or
to
something
be
like that.
confirmed by yes.
It's quite a while. That's what you are talking about. But elections will have been called. Why haven't we called our election? Why hasn't the media told us who has won the election? That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the official results. That can take even 2 months. But
So-
just calling the election, telling us this thing has gone to Raila Odinga or William Ruto. I'm just looking at the media and wondering, this is one time we needed you and you have resetted us. You have resetted us.
Really?
I agree with you to some extent,
Yeah.
but you're the one who said people are people and people have feelings. Some
Yes.
of those feelings are anxiety.
So
So
you're
maybe
massaging us.
one of the questions you should ask yourself is if in 24 hours the media called the results.
That's okay.
What
We
what
deal with
would-
our emotions.
It's okay, but if you were to play out a scenario, who would respond how? How would the public respond? A. B. How will the politicians respond? And by politicians, I mean, I'll cite the Azimio side. You have people who've lost the parliamentary seats and they were in the campaign team, including the chairman of the campaign, of the presidential campaign, Diritu, has lost his seat. You have people who have stake of some kind, including the transiting, exiting president on this. And then you have the voters who have expectations. Then you have the Ruto side. So maybe you have to look at it this way. Who would respond how? And therefore, who are we trying to massage in this case? Is it the citizens? Is it the politicians? So first of all, the citizens have been following the media tally and they're quite aware of what's going on. But it's the politicians and some of those players who are telling them, we have won, it is blue. They're the ones who are pushing I'm about to call it the resist narrative, but they're the ones who are pushing for the citizens to doubt the outcomes. It is being pushed mostly by the politicians, those who've succeeded and those who have failed and those who have stake in this. So maybe this thing is not even, the 7 days is not really even for us as voters, because we can see the numbers. We've gone to the portals. We have had a lot of citizen participation, including people who've put up, who are crowdsourcing results and tallying by themselves. So what is our presidential election about? And why is it taking 7 days? And what is the interest of these other parties who are not voters in us going through this difficulty? And you could even see them at Bomas. The people who are howling and with very aggressive behavior are not citizens at all. It is the politicians. So that is the more pertinent question. Who are we trying to massage and why? Have we answered that question for ourselves?
I just want the numbers to be put up there. We know the winner. Those who have lost, they deal with their grief. Those who have won, they do celebrations, and the country moves on.
If only it were that simple, really.
It should be that simple. This is the 21st
Why would
century.
it not
It
be
is
that
not
simple,
behaviorally simple, though. It is not
Human beings,
behaviorally
this idea that human beings will behave in a certain prescribed way only works up to a certain point. The unfortunate thing is this baggage of history where a presidential election has always been the center of our electoral process, because everything that people consider to be useful in their lives hinges on who is president. Even with the changes we've made, that thinking hasn't changed that much. And if you look at the outcomes of what we see with presidential elections, one could argue there is justification for the way people conduct themselves. Now, when we say the focus on the presidential elections, I say that is not entirely true. The focus, in my view, is made to be, because there is no presidential election without voting at the polling station. There is no outcome without the tallying of what happens at the polling station. The outcome and the anxiety. Now, that outcome, if I were to ask IEBC today, do you know how many people voted? They know. Do you know the votes that were at the polling station? They know. So in that regard, Herman, I agree with you. Where is the problem? We know. If we look at what we should be expecting, forget the story of Form 34B. Look at Form 34A. So, if we know this and it's something that is available, then why don't we know it? Now, the why, in my opinion, is not what we're seeing here. The why is what happens before what we're seeing here takes place. And I have to go back not to 2008. I'm going back to the re-election when Jaramogi Oginga crossed over and went to the opposition. That election was the first time Kenyans understood rigging. Because you'd find ballot boxes in Joro River. Whether the water was voting is a completely different matter. Yeah. Then we came to the Mlolongo, where the guy who was in charge was the district commissioner. Now, we know how that one would go. That history has gotten itself entrenched into our system. So what we are reacting to and what we don't want to admit is that rigging takes place in all political parties and in all spheres. All. Let me repeat, all. So
are you saying there's rigging going on?
And that I understand what you're saying.
Yes.
Rigging is not the issue here. It is the subtle and now clear expectation of the citizenry to accept and to expect wrong. So when something goes wrong, it just depends on which side you think it has gone wrong for. But we've more or less accepted. Everything about our election means we long accepted that wrong will be part and parcel of the electoral process.
So I have a question for you. This is very good pitching that you've put here.
Pitching.
So where do you think the problem is? Do you think voters showed up to vote? Do you think our parties had agents at the polling station? Do you think voters believe Form 34A is a credible document because our elections happened at the polling station, like you have said? Do voters believe that what is on Form 34A is legit what happened on the ground? The agents who are present, though I now see Azimio didn't even have agents even in its stronghold, but the agents that were there signed on to this, do they have that belief that Form 34A, as you said, is a valid document that was updated? And finally, having pitched that strongly, why couldn't the media call the elections using Form 34A after putting us through all that drama of tallying? We are here, walls, wall to wall was in every station. Then what happened? What happened?
The media doesn't control the outcome of an election. Neither does it control the information that they get. They were using the same portal that everybody else has access to.
That is true.
Okay? So calling it would mean that they are certain. The very thing that I've said is answered by that. If you work in the media and you are not certain about certain things, are you going to go around talking about the results? And you're not certain, and you know very well as a media
Why
house.
would you be certain? These are just numbers.
Unfortunately, that's the point.
Are they?
Are they just numbers?
Are you then saying,
That's what I'm saying. Are they just numbers?
So answer my
They must
question
be
from
numbers.
the base, from the root of the question. Are you saying there was a problem and that citizens believe there was a problem at the polling station? And are you saying the agents then are having a problem with form? Because until
Actually,
tallying started,
it is you
no
who
one
saying
had
that.
an issue.
I am saying,
Yeah.
not the people,
Aye.
CT Muga, I am saying, that's why I gave you a little brief on the history. We have had elections that have been contested on issues that I am not suggesting, I am mentioning.
Yes.
And those things haven't gone away. They were never discussed conclusively, so we have carried them on to this election. So they are now playing out. That is what I am saying. When you talk about, in the previous chat we had, I mentioned, you're talking about 2008. Hindsight we are told anecdotally some 2 million people voted in, came in and just voted for the president, no one else. Actually, it's possible. It is possible for people to do that, but is it probable? The same discussion is taking place now, where people are saying, but is this possible? Now, the reason why those discussions take place is when they first reared their heads, they were never dealt with conclusively. So, you're asking me numbers. I am asking the question, are the numbers really the numbers? That is
What
really
we
what
need
I'm
to
asking.
do, CT, for the
Yes.
sake of this country, what we need to do is to simplify our elections. Let elections be simple. These are simple things. Let it be a straightforward matter. I look forward to a time when you'll be able to vote on your phone and just in the next by 5:30 you know the
Or
president.
dump
And
it at
it's as
the post
simple
office
as
kind
that.
of thing. I
Let's
have a question for
you know
you,
the
and I
problem
know
with
it's straight, yeah.
the problem with poor people, third world countries, is simple things are made to look very complex, and the complex things are treated with a very simplistic approach. We must move away from that pattern of doing things. Let simple things remain simple. Let's do them in a simple way. An election is supposed to be a simple way. And that is why I supported BBI myself, the principle. And you can see the principle of BBI is already playing out. You can see this election is less tribally charged than before. Mudavadi going to UDA and Wetangula was the magic and a few of these guys. So that BBI was looking at an election where we have two major forces and the Kenya is on both sides. So once we've sorted out this problem of tribe, let's go to the next stage where we make elections as simple as possible. Then we move the country forward. We can't be people who spend so much energy, so much. Look at how much it is costing us to print a ballot paper. More than it costs perhaps to print currency. We print money here in Waraka, in Nairobi. And we can't trust ourselves to print our ballot papers here. We take some Greeks.
Actually, we
What are we
can.
talking about?
So it's a
Let's take a
systemic
break.
issue.
Huh?
Let's
No, yeah,
take a
we have
break.
to move away from that.
Break time, 27 minutes to 9. Herman Manyora is in the studio, as well as Rita Oyer, communication strategist. We are talking about this long wait for the results of the presidential election. Let's take this quick break. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Our guests this morning, Rita Oyer, a communication strategist, and Herman Manyora, political analyst. We're talking about the anxious wait for the election results. What's happening at Bomas so far is less than 30 constituencies yet to be announced. IEBC says it has completed the verification exercise. So, likelihood of now the next stage is going into the declaration of the results, and that's what we're talking about. Ndo, you had a question for Herman before you took a break.
Right, so Herman, you talk about the simplification of, these issues, simplification of an election. Like you say in the US, for example, people go, vote, run it to the post office, and then you go back to work. Why do you think that is? Because there's trust in a system over time that they've been able to practice and say, look, this is actually what we can do. You have people who run elections in the US, for example, who are volunteers. Nothing like this IEBC business that you have here. It's volunteers. You get your people together, you do the business, you go ahead. A federal system which allows states to run an election by the use of volunteers. They trust a system that has shown that it can work in a certain manner. And I dare say that is the reason why, then, you cannot see the same thing happen on this side of the pond. Because there's no trust in a system that doesn't allow you for it to be so simple. Is that not the reason why we are seeing things cannot be just as simple on this side? And the players will not allow the simplicity of the system to run its course.
I agree with you, but you see, this trust deficit, we have to deal with it. It is responsible for so many things that are not right. Look at, when we want to set up a commission, it must have like 9 people. Because unless our region or tribe is represented, it's not a commission. And so we are paying for this. We must bring this to an end.
How
we
do we
must
deal with
deal
it?
with our trust deficit.
First of all,
Others
Herman,
have created their systems, yes.
who perpetuates this trust deficit? Is it the public, the citizenry, or is it the political leaders?
You know, this thing was planted in us by our colonial masters. And created artificial differences between communities, which differences blow up during elections or when there's something to share. So we know that. And we can't be held captive for so long by something we know doesn't make sense to us. And it is costing us dearly. I've said we print currency here, but we can't print ballot papers here. We can't even print our exams here. Look here, you trust your phone to handle your little money in your bank. You can access it on your phone. Money.
Yep.
You know, on a card, an ATM, a Visa card, on your phone, you can trust that your money. You can't trust your vote electronically. That's what I'm saying. Others have gotten where they are, like she's saying, over years. The world is moving so fast, we don't have the time people had to get where they are. The conditions they went through, we don't have them. So what do we have? We have the benefit of education. We have the benefit of the modern world and whatever comes with the modern world. We have the benefit of technology. We must harness technology so that we tell ourselves, how do you transact with M-Pesa and you trust your M-Pesa? We can trust our vote electronically. That's where that's the conversation. But again, I know human beings are not easy to deal with. That's how BBI was coming in. So BBI, to lessen the tension, to lessen the differences between tribes, so that what I'm saying can then get the proper ecosystem within which to work.
So my question then would be, and I agree with most of what you have said on trust deficit, but how is it that this trust deficit only affects the Kalenjin, the Kikuyu, and the Luo, and partially the Luya? I do not see a scenario where if we had a Turkana presidential candidate as the front runner, we'd have a trust deficit. Why is it that, there's narratives that there's history, and I agree with you, the colonial influence, but how is it that this trust deficit and this tribal affects only 3 major tribes in this country when it comes to the presidential ticket? Is that a problem you foresee BBI would have solved? I do not think so. I think these are narratives that only work in part, but they do not represent the full picture of what is really going on. I do not see if Ekuru was our front runner or even Wajakoya. I think he's from Busia, and I learned about that just the other day. He doesn't come off as a tribal candidate in any form, and therefore he gets support from across board. I do not see anyone who says we cannot have Bangi legislated because Wajakoya is a Luya. It doesn't come up. So I think we have to appreciate that we can blame the colonialist for as much as we want, but we have failed ourselves. We got some form of independence on paper, but we did not get any cultural, democratic, or even authentic independence or separation from our colonial masters. And some of these narratives we keep perpetuating, it's only Mount Kenya that is feeding the whole country.
But Rita,
on what?
Why do you think we must be given these things? You don't think that what we are seeing is our way of progressing and creating a system that works for us? What you're seeing here with everything that is there, because it's not other people from other countries doing what we're doing here. It's us Kenyans doing exactly what we're doing here.
No, I'm going to say something that you might not agree with. When you see some of the narratives that even HERMAN here, MANYORA here, after all the things he's saying, education tech, is continuing to perpetrate, it is by design, really. Some of these things are not accidental.
Which
we are
things
still
specifically?
What he's saying, trust deficit, colonialism, and I'm asking the question, why is it that only 3 tribes have an issue or a deficit issue with our election process? The other 41 tribes might, if they were the lead presidential candidates, these issues might not come up. And we do not know because we've not experimented. But there is a continuity situation here. We got some form of independence on paper, but we got people who are continuing with the things that their masters were perpetrating, their colonial masters were perpetrating, and they keep reviving those things in the form of convenient election narratives. This tribal trust deficit, it doesn't come when your M-Pesa agent is a Kikuyu and you're a Luo. It doesn't come up. So why does it come up when it's an election year only?
Is it possible to perhaps consider that what we keep referring to as a colonial legacy is actually a human legacy, that human beings, we transferred power. The human beings who got into power just behaved like the other human beings. That's what they did. They looked at what benefits them. So it ceases to be colonial because, look, in the last election, you're talking about communities. The understanding was that, I have to go back into history to understand this. In Jomo Kenyatta's reign, there were 7 ministers, 7 from Kiambu, not Central Kenya, Kiambu, where he came from. There was 1 minister from Muranga, another one from Embu, somebody called Jeremiah Nyaga. There was another one from Meru, 1.
Avesta.
Angaine. There was Julius Ikonyo Kiano. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is human beings respond in a certain almost predictable when it comes to power, when they have power. And that one was absolute power, so they could do what they wanted. How do you explain a situation where there's a narrative that the presidency will not pass River Chania? It tells you it's not the community. It is these people who are in leadership who thought that way. So fast forward it to this day and age. You have a political class, and you're saying it's colonial. Well, they're behaving like the colonialists, and I'm saying human beings behave that way.
And what I'm trying to say without saying it is that some of this continuity is, you know, this thing that Ruto keeps talking about, dynasty. You know, people inherit things from their parents. Some of these people are even continuing narratives that are not even community, but things that were indoctrinated in their own families. Some of these families, you're now talking about political powers, they're not coming from nowhere. Some of them are continuing with things that their fathers, their grandfathers taught them. And when you hear a narrative, and it might not be the right way to frame it, when you hear someone say we need to break away from the dynasties, maybe that is part of what they're saying. Part of what
that
we
is
are
also
seeing.
a false narrative.
It is not a false. You've just explained it here.
No,
I'm agreeing with you.
No, you've interpreted what I have said to mean that. And I'm trying to explain that when you give it a great deal of explanation, you are simplifying, you're complicating a human condition. Human, it's just human. If I want power and I see that there's a situation that anyone looking at can see is a little disproportionate, would I not seek a narrative that seeks to empower the people whom I call disenfranchised? What narrative do you think, for instance, Raila Odinga has held all these years? Same narrative. Same. It's not a different narrative.
I think we are belittling a point for nothing. In politics, people organize around certain ideas, or whatever, or things, and for us, we organize around tribe, and there's nothing wrong with that. Ethnicities can be defined in many ways. Our ethnicity is tribe. Now, there is also the idea that power, if it is being played in a tribal society like ours, certainly the big tribes will organize themselves around their tribes, and that will define how you play your politics. And it is not just tribe. Even in America, if you look at the design of the American Constitution, it is designed to address the issue so that not 2 or 3 states can dominate America. Look at the Constitution. Look at Senate as an equalizer. You get it? They were aware from the word go that if you didn't take care, then Florida, Texas, and perhaps California could just gang up and dominate the states forever. So they found a way. Moy started it way back, and he came up with the 25% rule. You must get in at least 5 of the 8 provinces. Today we are 50 plus 1, and the 25% in at least half of the counties. It's an attempt at that. So I was saying BBI is advancing that, creating now the software. Because you can have the laws without the structures, without a software. The software is arrange your politics in such a way you could have 2 major sides. Each side will have Kenya. So you have Raila, Uhuru, Oparanya, Joho, Gideon Moore. You see, Kenya is there. You have Ruto, Mudavadi, Wetangula, Kingi, Alfred Mutua, and you can go on and on. Kenya is there with Rigathi Gachagua. So you have Kenya facing Kenya. That is a software you require to make the structures you have created work. And that's why I was saying I supported BBI in that. Because unless you sort out this issue of people militarizing the tribe to get political power, you will never go anywhere. So you next time.
So without promising them absolute positions in government or in the opposition, we already have those 2 formations.
Yes.
Has that lessened the kind of anxiety that we have going into this announcement by our Wafula Chebukati?
You can see.
Both of these 2 sides are claiming that they have won the election.
You see, you will have to agree with me because it's evident that this election is less tribally charged than the others we have had.
That's true.
And that partly explains. That's what I'm saying. BBI is already somehow playing out. Even the Ruto who said didn't support this issue of positions, he had to promise Mudavadi something like, I don't know what they called it. Raila promised Kalonzo something called chief minister. You know that kind of thing. It's already playing out. And it can be helped to manage the anxiety we are in future and the conflict. Because if Ruto loses, for example, and Gideon Moi was designed to be prime minister, when the Kalenjin want to rise and hit somebody, they realize, even the other government, Gideon is there, he's one of us. That was the thinking of BBI. And even today, the conflict will be less. The tension today will be much worse than it is if that arrangement wasn't in place. We have not split ourselves in the middle the way we have been. Not the way we were in 2017. Not the way we were in 2013. And certainly not the way we were in 2007, where it was one versus the rest.
41 versus 1.
Yeah.
You know, I sit here today and I am looking at both formations and I'm worried, to be honest.
Yes.
I'm worried by the way they continue manufacturing this narrative. They've all have had access to the results. They know their results from their agents' network and from the portal. Nobody does not know the result. William Ruto knows, Raila Odinga knows. And if they don't, then they don't deserve to be president.
Correct.
By today, they know. Yet today, each of them is claiming that they have won the election.
Yes. That's what I was saying.
And I sit back and I ask myself, so what exactly are they doing? Because as we say, you know, we sit here, we've seen this even in 2017, before Wafula Chebukati, final days of Wafula Chebukati announcing the result, Kenya was at peace and we're all being all merry. And that's when we were talking about Chilobe and Githeri Man. We were easy. We were watching what's happening at Bomas. We have voted, we are chilling, we are relaxed until the tension starts building up. Hey, wait, who has won this thing? Until that moment in the evening when Chebukati gives Uhuru the certificate and everything now goes south. Same thing we are being primed for this time.
And now you have
If Raila was given, if Raila today is the one who's declared winner, and yet Ruto and all his brigade have been saying we have won this election, what do you think is going to happen
Let me ask
to
you,
the supporters of Ruto?
Latif, let me call you Eric is better.
Yes.
Eric, have you heard Raila talk about results?
No, he hasn't.
Have you heard Ruto talk about results?
No.
So these social media fellows, Kinaitumi and the rest, let them just talk.
No.
So I agree with you. Raila knows the results.
He has not said.
Ruto also knows, but they have not spoken.
He has not used the word result.
Yes.
But he has, even as late as yesterday in church, he spoke about the journey to Canaan.
The journey to Canaan,
And we are crossing
it's
over
the
into
journey to Canaan.
We are crossing over into
even
Canaan.
Martha spoke.
And exuding confidence. Martha spoke directly and said, we have won this election.
Yeah. So,
William Ruto
Yeah.
has not spoken and said, I have won the election. But he has said, what was he saying in church yesterday? He was saying, I look for the tweet from when he was speaking at that service at his home.
Yes.
He spoke as if we have won the election.
We have won the election.
Only preparing for the
Yeah.
moment.
So don't you
Now,
agree with
surely.
me therefore somebody has set us up? So that arithmetics alone we can't do. And that person, I'm telling you, either Chepkat is smarter than the rest of us, or NIS is playing with us. Somebody's playing with us. I don't understand. How can a whole nation, I want to repeat, not know who has won this election?
But Herman,
From Tuesday last week. What are you talking about?
no, we all know who has won the election.
Who has won?
Oh,
We all know who has won. Please.
we are not supposed to be calling it,
actually,
but we can
depends.
project. We
she
can
knows
project.
who has won
Who has
depending
won?
on the political divide she's
No,
affiliated
that
to.
is not true. That is not true.
Who has won, my
That is
daughter?
not true.
Prove what I'm saying to be false, Rita.
I am coming to you.
Who has won?
Give me. Let me respond to something Eric crazy. So I when I sit around people like Herman, I wonder if we are looking at the same thing. For you to say that Raila and Ruto have not spoken directly about a win, yet you can see, include everyone around them, including their chief agents. Raila did something, or rather, Azimio, let me not blame it on him, did something that we have not seen before, where you mobilize people who have won. It's the same IBC who have declared these people as winners. You trust that IBC got its math right with these people you have called to KICC. They come, you charge them, you send them to bombers. What signal are you sending? And then when they get to Bomas, the next thing you're seeing is fracas, and after 24 hours, you're seeing police. That is the type of behavior that we cannot say just because someone didn't open their mouth and say a specific thing, they did not give energy to a certain direction for the citizenry. And this is how we got ourselves into 2007, 2008, post-election violence, where someone doesn't say something directly, but all their action is sending energy and people to do something.
I think this is
And
happening
they
on
actually
both,
show up
however,
and
Rita, I think
actually
it's
do
happening
it.
on both sides.
It's on both sides.
It's on both sides.
No, I was
that
just
this is
giving one
happening.
illustration.
And that's why it makes it very difficult to go countrywide, because everybody is hearing the same narrative and saying, well, our people have won, our people have won. But the messages that we're hearing from the principals themselves is what? I want you to please maintain yourselves in an order of peace, etc., etc. But then we hear the agents that you're talking about around them who are saying something else. You're keeping people in a charged position.
And that's why I'm worried.
Throughout, people are charged. It doesn't matter what side they're on. The people on their side are charging them by the very things that they're saying.
All
And
it needs is
So may I
for
ask-
Ruto to say,
unfortunately,
don't say it.
exactly.
Or for Raila to say,
So
don't
say
this.
it.
So may I ask, and I keep, I have said this election cycle, the media have been my favorite stakeholder with challenges here and there. So may I ask, one, why does the media showcase that particular misbehavior to the public? Two, why do you give audience
Who is media?
to this? Okay, so for example,
this is what
when
we are
people,
doing.
no, that's fine.
Amma, you want another different media so it becomes credible. Are you
Eric,
saying that
Eric.
this show is not credible media?
No, this show is credible media. It's
So then how do you
most of Kenya.
separate
So what
us?
I'm saying, wait, let me finish. So I'm saying, one, when people are fighting at Bomas and I mean physically fighting, and those whatever high tension, loud voice things happening, and the GSU and anti-riot police are coming on the floor, why does the media feel this is very good content to show Kenyan citizens when Kenyans have voted perfectly peacefully? That is A. B, when you're interviewing these politicians, because they need you to get these messages out, why don't you ask them these questions that you're asking? Why are you not asking people like Ngilu and people like Gladys Wanga or people like Pasaris, what are you doing? What are you saying? Why are you saying this? When you know Kenyans have peacefully voted, the process of counting is ongoing. We trusted you to have agents. You have chief agents there. You have all this paperwork, the portal. Why are you saying what you're saying? What is the basis? Why aren't our journalists and reporters asking these tough questions to the politicians themselves? Why are you waiting to ask Herman and Rita in a studio? For what? What can we say? The media has a role because someone, my grandmother in Kindube, doesn't see that fight in Bomas until you show her. She will not have a chance to ask Martha Karua, what do you mean by parliamentary majority when you don't have parliamentary
we have shown
majority?
her what her leader is doing.
So then she does what? She's voted.
Correct.
So
Yes.
now what do you want her to do? She's voted. The tensions are high. So what do you want her to do? You've shown her.
Your grandmother can make a decision, can she not?
At what point she has voted, Eric?
Yes.
Eric.
But beyond
she has
that, can she not make a decision if ever she gets that message of incitement of being called out and being told, let's now go onto the street or support your grandchildren to go out to the street? She can see that. She can see. I mean, I saw the kind of nonsense that was happening at Bomas.
What she
Or are you
saw
saying
at
that we should black
Bomas-
it out?
What she saw at Bomas was Gladys Wanga, Esther Pasaris frog matching an IBC official.
Yes.
And the police were standing and observing and saying Kimeibiwa and going to Gladys' boss's car and saying there's things here which they didn't even pull out for us to see. And bullying, that is what they saw. So what decision? This person made a decision to go and vote. Then 6 days later, this is the imagery you're projecting to them at 1 a.m.
Yes.
Then the next day, what they're seeing is police now boots on the ground at Bomas. I mean, you are shaping a narrative. You're shaping the crisis as
Let's
we do.
continue the conversation. Let's take a break
Yes.
first.
So no,
Let's
you
hear
have
the
to
news.
take some level of accountability for
Let's
that. as well.
get into the news. Retail year, communication strategist and HERMAN MANYORA, political analyst. We're here with them.